Well, it looks like I finally have figured out my diet after these 10 months of being homeless, challenging myself to eat right and don't eat wrong, and be able to keep things in a preserved state, for the most part, without too much spoilage, because I'm very sensitive to spoiled food. I can get a sore throat, swollen tonsils like that. Doesn't take much. The one thing I miss, though, that I can't afford is soup, vegetable soup, squash soup, because I just don't have the funds for it. But I can get by. I can get by now, and on very little, and be very happy. And the latest addition to my repertoire is nutritional yeast, of all things. But I still have to take cayenne pepper with the meal when I eat cooked starch, because I get this cough after the meal that takes a while to subside. Phlegm in my lungs that don't want to come up. And I get filled with a lot of hot air and gusto after eating, and I want to usually make a recording. So nutritional yeast, not bad stuff. I scoop it out of the bag with a very salty tortilla strip. And that's another thing I've become very desirous of salty food in my diet. And I love corn, so why not salty corn chips? So I scoop that in either a jar of creamy peanut butter or in a bag of nutritional yeast. Wash it down with a special mixture of drinking water. The cheapest water I can get in the market is spring water. And I add sterile, pasteurized apple cider vinegar, not raw, and to taste. When I get it nice and sharp enough to the drinking water, then I add baking soda, very marginal, just enough to give it a kind of fizzy taste after the bubbles subside a bit. It still should be slightly tart, but hardly noticeably tart. But, well, should be a little bit. Not on the alkaline side, but on the tart side. But and so that's my beverage with meals, between meals, and if I was so inclined to buy soup, add the vinegar and baking soda to the soup. Why not? Let's see what else. And then the other interesting thing is I've learned how to preserve bread. You don't have refrigeration. I found this out the hard way going on a hiking trip. I made homemade bread, and it's spoiled by the next day, because it just can't keep in a plastic container, and if you put it, or bag, and if you put it in wrapped up in a paper towel, unless it's Lebkuchen, which is honey bread, it'll just dry up hard as a rock. So, or else it develops yeast all over it, stringy yeast, fungal white mess in a plastic bag. But what I found is that if you take paper squares, like napkins, what do you call that stuff? Paper towel. I haven't gotten paper towel in a while because I get it for free from from public restrooms. But you wrap up each individual slice of bread in that paper towel, and then stack them in a Ziploc and exclude as much air as possible, I suppose, is a good idea. It actually keeps. And then I don't leave any of this in the car where it can bake. I take my perishables with me. Another yummy thing is Activa brand of yogurt. They come either pre or probiotic. I think it's probiotic in small jars. I think they're like 4-ounce jars. And or cups of a more yogurt custard style cups. I learned about this staying at Best Western Hotel. It's pretty cool. Tastes far superior than normal yogurt. What else? I said the peanut butter. Yeah, and that's it. That's my diet. And it's superb. And I still have to take supplements, but I take less mineral supplements. Oh, no. See, there was one thing missing. I knew it. Salted butter. And my favorite has herbs and lemon in it. Yeah, that reduces my need for minerals, which is good. because I usually consume so many minerals, calcium and iron being my biggest. But I get to reduce it down to hardly anything, and that includes everything across the board, magnesium, whatever. I always take a B12. I've learned the hard way. So I do have to take that. What else? Yeah, occasionally. Oh, seaweed, Laminaria genus. What's it? But oddly enough, it's called Icelandic kelp, even though it's Pacific Coast kelp. Icelandic kelp is the name of the product from Nature's Life brand. And you can't get it in the health food store in large jars anymore, although you might be able to find the small ones. But the large jars are on Amazon. And that's nice. It's good stuff to take. So different things. Activated charcoal I keep on hand. Cayenne pepper capsules I keep on hand. Calcium citrate, magnesium glycinate, iron glycinate. Potassium iodide is good to take once in a while. 1 milligram per pound of body weight. But, when you feel it, like it. What else do I have in my... Oh, yeah. I forgot to take it this morning. A probiotic, prebiotic, and something else biotic capsule form. Doctors recommended, or I think is the brand name or something. It was on sale. I got a whole bunch of them. Let's see, what else? Yeah, I don't need to take Senna laxative herb anymore. I just wait. It might be a few days. It's a good deal of strain, and I don't feel like I poop completely, but I don't risk loose stools hitting me at the most inopportune moments. Now that I'm homeless, I don't have access to toilets very readily, and I have to usually walk an hour to the nearest toilet. So, it's not much fun having active bowels. I don't want to be constipated, but I don't want to be extremely active either. Like this, you get the sudden urge and it's now, or you go in your pants. So no, I don't like that. Not in a homeless condition. So I avoid the Senna. And let's see what else. I think that's it. It's really working out pretty good. I'm really impressed. I'm impressed I'm eating butter, of all things. And I'm impressed that I'm eating nutritional yeast. I never in my wildest dreams would think I would ever stoop so low. That's even lower than butter. Oh, God. At least it's dead. I can't risk creating alcohol in my system from eating live yeast. God forbid. It's inactive yeast. And it's really yummy. It really gives me an appetite to eat all that starchy stuff that I eat. And it's almost fat-free. It's light and goes down good. Scoop it up. Well, okay, I said that already. And then I work. I work out, walking 2.5 miles every day. Slight inclines, not too bad. What else? And then I work at the computer working on my book. My latest, 2 books. I do upgrade the detox book once in a while on Amazon, but the Lockridge one, I'm still heavily into it. I am amazed how much I got to say and find out and research, but I think I have discovered as much as I can. Because simulation work is very limited. It only gives a very vague suggestion of what to expect might work on the bench when you try to build it, but nowhere near accuracy, unfortunately. But it doesn't matter which simulator you use, so long as it's an electronic simulator. Sorry to get off topic. They're all pretty bad, because they all make presumptions about how you're going to build your circuit. Now, Paul Falstad presumes you're going to know how to build an ideal transformer and an ideal capacitor and an ideal strand of wire. In other words, nothing leaks energy at all. good luck. And, oh, that's a lot of fun. You can get over Unity lickety-split. But if you go to the Spice family of simulators, it's not any better. They assume you're going to wind all your coils in copper wire. I mean, come on. We've got aluminum, we've got iron wire, insulated floral wire, come on. I mean, it's like so many presumptions that really are drastically different from each other. So the only way to truly simulate is to get a very, very expensive simulator that takes fields into account. Not that these other simulators don't, but they also take materials of construction into account, and that affects the field, while the others do not. So it's really the materials of construction that are missing, because it modifies how the field performs. Oh, in a drastic way. I mean, my God, iron, aluminum, copper, 3 different types of fields right there. 3 different types of magnetic fields. Big difference. Sorry, so there's a double topic recording here, so I'll have to give it 2 titles. What I eat these days, and a little electrical engineering, whatever. But somebody posed a question, and I could feel afterwards that he was really draining me of energy because he was expecting to get free tutelage. So I had to drop the bar on him and let him know, it's not going to happen. Anything free I do because it's self-centered. I'm basically talking to myself. And so I'll probably think, that I did a pretty good job on that. I think I'll include that in my book, But it's not really free tutelage. Free tutelage is like this guy yesterday who said, I bought all your books and I watch all your movies and I'd like to do a phone call with you. And then I thought about it and I thought, I felt so awful afterwards, like I was being taken advantage of. And then I realized, you know what, I got to charge the guy up front. The first hour will be half price, only $15 per half hour up front in advance of each half hour. But after that, it's $60 for a full hour, or actually $30 for each half hour. And that's reasonable, considering I'm homeless, and I worked out my budget the other day. My budget is $6,000 a month. Can you imagine that? And I'm homeless because I make less than that. I take in less than that. Or, no, actually, I take in slightly more now that I have yeah, right. I take in about $1,100 a month. I mean, that's like stupid. Not to charge. Well, okay. When I raise the prices on my books on Amazon, now they're not selling anymore. Everybody wants something for free. Good grief. I've spent so much of my time and effort and love in developing my craft for the last almost 7 years now. Well, no, I did start in the fall. I think it was September of 2016, but I didn't start making successful progress until February or March. And I can't remember which month it was. It might have been February of 2017, so it's not quite 7 years of what I consider to be, speaking from experience, successful experience, because that's the only kind of teaching I prefer to teach, or platform to teach from. Not speculation, not doubts, not gossip, not rumor, not authoritative sources, which is a fallacy of logic, not common sense, that certainly doesn't work, but from experience. And in the beginning, I didn't have any understanding, and I knew it would take a long time, because understanding is much more difficult than knee-jerk training by way of gained by trial and error in the lab, and even harder still. That was just lab work, not bench work. So I haven't even had a chance to do bench work, and that's even harder because I don't know about how things perform in the real world and how that further restricts the margin for success. Because all these challenges, they never put a stop to success in the realm of free energy. They just keep making it harder the more closer to reality you get. So it's good to start with Paul Falstad's simulator because it's so far removed from common sense. Not that it can't be done. It can be. Any simulation can be done. It's just, how do you do it? Would you want to do it? Like that a lightning bolt. My first successful self-regulating free energy device put out power that was, I think, it was far more voltage than San Onofre when San Onofre was in operation, but it was about the same amperage. So, and these were pulses. Every, 7 minutes? It would have to gather up its strength, so-called strength, charging up its capacitors. But those capacitors and coils, some of them were like gigahenries, gigafarads, picofarads. I mean, giga? Or transformers with gigahenries on them, So it was really bizarre. But then, considering what Mother Nature is capable of, I wouldn't put it past Mother Nature because the quantity of energy was analogous to 10% of lightning bolts, which are more powerful than the other 90%. And that was my first really good success because it was self-regulating. It's so hard to get things to regulate themselves and that's why one of the reasons why we don't do free energy in the real world, in the commercial world, is because it's very hard to get it to stabilize. It either drops off or it increases out of control somewhat, because you have to ease up on the reins, so to speak, in order to get free energy in the first place, because free energy is suppressed by maintaining the status quo of throughput in your system, whether it's a transmission line or an appliance. And that just can't be done. It's impossible because you're dealing with a wild beast when you're dealing with free energy. It's not stable at all. And the only reason why we get stability out of the electric power grid is because it's enforced by brute force. It's not its essential nature. Electricity, the essential nature, is a wild stallion, is the Big Bang that physicists allude to, is what they're really referring to, is electricity. Because that really is the fundamental nature of the universe, not what physicists would like you to have you believe with their mystical incantations, for lack of a better way to explain it. Because it's all like lawyers, it's all code words that are meant to represent something else more commonplace. They want to make it sound uncommonly mysterious so as to take it away from electrical engineers and electrical engineering. But it's all electrical engineering. Everything, including inertia and gravity, mass, everything boils down to an electrical analog, so that you can duplicate whatever you see in the real world or know about in the real world or in the realm of physics in electrical terms, in the terms of electrical engineering. It's just we don't have that understanding, because then we'd have to become a socialist state, and we don't want to do that. We want to remain commercial, the profit motive. But money would be useless if we had a complete, robust, and accurate testimonial, shall we say, coming from students coming out of their educational process of physics and electrical engineering. It's just not allowed, because it's not commercially viable, in the words of one electrical engineer on Quora who spoke those terms, that if it's not commercially viable, it is not a scientific fact. And that's the only facts of science that are allowed to exist, are the ones that can make money and maintain, or even at the very least, be neutral in their influence on the economy and not have any impact, certainly not a negative one, because we're not based on gold and silver. Sorry for that interruption. Because we're not based on gold and silver or anything product or a service-based economy anymore. We're based on, well, we are, but in a very roundabout way in which we don't admit it. We're based on barrels of crude oil. And so long as they keep flowing, then our money is worth something. But we're based on other things, too. It's really a composition of products and services, and we don't tie ourselves to any one composition or product or service. But we would suffer severely if we did not need so much crude oil anymore, except for the manufacturing of plastics, That's really all petroleum is good for, because we can get all of our energy, so to speak, from elsewhere. We don't have to get it from oil or nuclear or coal. Falling water is fine, tidal waves, wind, solar, but yeah, they're limited. But we don't recycle our electrical energy. We recycle our plastics, our glass, and our aluminum. It's well known in electrical engineering you can recycle electricity. But I say this not enough. I never say this enough. The electric utility companies, all of them, have all decided to penalize businesses when they get charged for their electrical usage by requiring that they use it once and send it back to the grid. If they try to recycle it, they're penalized, they're fined. While the residential customer is not, because you and I don't spend a whole lot. Oh, we got to shut down the power because you're consuming too much. That's bullshit. Most of the consumption of electrical power is from businesses, manufacturing. And they're the ones penalized not to recycle. You can tell when you start learning about these things, you can tell how the social logistics is working out to be. They just got to keep raking in their dollars to prevent hyperinflation, as one of many methodologies for preventing hyperinflation, because our dollars are not strictly tied to any product or service anymore. It's just loosely associated with the flow of money as a collectivity, as a collective activity. The flow of money, but regardless of what flows. But if we had a more efficient economy because we had a better lifestyle, yeah, the flow of money would be severely reduced to the point that only the wealthy would pass it among themselves. Because if and when they did, because the rest of us wouldn't need to, because everything would be so dirt cheap that it would cost more to send you the bill than it would be to pay the collection agency to extract the money from you for not paying your bill. In other words, the stamp would be ridiculously more than the cost of the bill, and yada yada. So who would pay their bill? No one. So it's impossible to have that kind of society overnight. And that's what makes my job so difficult, because we are doing the darndest to maintain the status quo, and that means passing whatever laws are needed, just the minimum, no more than the minimum, because any more than that, nobody would believe the lies, but because they'd see through them, it would be obvious. But this way, it's not obvious, because you have to be highly trained like me to see through them. So most of humanity does not, and so they go along with the mixture of truths, half-truths, and lies that sustains the status quo. But be that as it may, it is what it is. I wouldn't mind a better world. Of course, I guess I wouldn't want a overnight transition, because that would be hideously filled with lots of suffering. It's probably going to happen anyway, but not through a collapse of the economy. It's just that, one of the problems with having so much money in circulation is it's really there for a purpose, and that's why we don't lose it, and we don't change it. It's really to satisfy the burgeoning population, who, for the most part, don't understand the finer things in life. And so we really have a society that caters to the superficiality. And that's why we have so many people being born today. It's not just better health care, it's because it caters to a superficial awareness. If the earth suddenly altered its character, causing it to be uncomfortable to remain here, if all you are capable of is a superficial awareness, you'll be so uncomfortable you'll want to leave. You won't want to come back, at the very least. And that will change the character of the economy for certain, because then it won't because, fiat currency is extremely superficial because it's not tied to anything except its own flow. So we really have a superficial culture is what it amounts to, and that's not something that can be changed through rhetoric or restrictions or laws. None of that. No, No, it has to come from the earth at this point. Maharishi did what he could. John Lennon did what he could. But, people can only do so much. And the tendency for the human mind, especially the collective one, to push back against change and promote instead non-change, because it's more comfortable that way, to defend non-change, it's really preventing change from happening, and Mother Nature is not going to tolerate it, because we're supposed to have heaven on earth. We're supposed to have this earth of ours remade into a garden like it once was. That's the verdict from divine sources. Go wherever you want to. Now, people have been claiming that for a century or more, and it hasn't happened. Why? Because we're in the cusp for the last century and a half. I mark the 1840s as probably the beginning of that cusp. Actually the 1800s, because we discovered how to extract iodine from seaweed. But then we learned the cotton gin in the 1850s. We didn't need slave work anymore. We discovered theater lighting. We discovered a use for electricity, a practical use, in the 1840s, I believe it was. And the telegraph as well. So we had two electrical contraptions, one for communication and one for entertainment. So that was kind of like and then of course we had the slaves, the emancipation of the slaves in the 1860s. So that first half of the 1800s was pretty much the beginning of the cusp of this dawning of this new era that we're coming into. But it's a cusp. It's not an overnight affair. So even the cusp alone takes a while to become more obvious that we're going through some very swift changes. And now we're noticing it because it is swift. But it's still superficial. It hasn't gone deep enough. And it will. It will cover the whole range of our existence, both subtle and gross and everything in between. It just hasn't reached the subtle plane yet. But it's making inroads. It's creeping in. Marginally. Anyway, well, we got YouTube, so everybody can express themselves. It supersedes public access. I'm sorry for these interruptions. It's just I set my alarm clock and I forget to turn it off when I make a recording. So it kills this recording process. So anyway, we have all this progress taking place. But it's going to become more in the direction of less materiality, more collectivity. This idea, I see it right now. I see it in job openings. This tendency leaning towards teamwork. You join a team when you join your company. It's not just you're being hired for your individual role that you're going to fulfill. Now it's the team. It's all about the team. And that's really what the future is going to be. It's not going to be lone voices like me or, whoever else from history. It'll be teams, groups of people doing things. And, when I was doing Ubers, and every time I would pick up or deliver people to the various conventions, oh my God, I was so impressed. They have these mega gatherings of conventions at times. Thousands upon thousands of people showing up. 24,000 people estimated, or more, I think. I mean, at one time, within a span of several days. I mean, my God, that's phenomenal. It doesn't matter who they represent, just the quantity of people working in teams, in groups, to achieve goals. That is powerful. And that's what's going to move and shake this planet. Not me. I'll be forgotten. And anything I contribute will be forgotten and have to be rediscovered by teams, by groups. And they will, but on their own. Not from any help from me. That's for sure. I'm just ahead of the pack like, Da Vinci was ahead. So what? We're flukes of human evolution. We don't serve any practical use because we're flukes. Bessler, we're flukes. It's only when society's ready for it, and then it pretty much does it on its own. Then you got it sprouting up everywhere simultaneously, or catching on everywhere simultaneously, whatever. But what I'm like talking to the air, I'm very few people listen to me, and it's for free, and that's probably why. But still, I'm really a rare oddity, and I know that. I've always known that since I was a little 4-year-old. I just never stuck my neck out to risk jealousy or, what's the other one? Fear. Yeah, fear or jealousy. Born of passion and ignorance. Be that as it may. Anyway, I guess I've spoken enough and I'm ready to greet the day of activity and get moving. Thank you very much for listening.